I have been sitting on Zyphon demos since about August. The reason I didn't act upon those sooner is because I wanted to see if Jabbi could find some consistency. If he found some good consistency and played at a, acceptable level, we'd get this video. If he wasn't able to be consistent or just fell down a cliff, we'd move on without him. In a strange yet quite wonderful turn of events, Jabbi has found that consistency against the toughest of opponents, smashing his way through IEM Fall and then putting up perhaps his career best performance in the major itself. Though this is impressive, these two are still players I consider prospects. They're incredibly young, and they haven't shown a consistent level of performance across several events of this caliber. They still have a lot of room to grow, and a lot of time needed before they truly flourish into all-time greats. With all that in mind, these are two of the most promising players I've ever had the pleasure of covering on this show. I'm T, they are Jabbi and Zyphon, and this is Prospects. Really quick, before the rest of the video, please check out my Movember campaign, links in the description. It's a charity thing. Thank you. The first thing I noticed about Zyphon is his aim. He has excellent crosshair placement, but more impressive are his flicks, which seem to rarely miss. This is likely thanks to Zyphon's endless grind in deathmatch. He's constantly putting the hours in, and it really shows on the server. While Zyphon is the greater flicker, it's actually Jabbi who comes out on top in headshot percentage. Jabbi's roles play a part in that, as he does do more aggressive playmaking, which necessitates that he hits those instant headshots or dies. Another key skill Jabbi brings to the table is his AWPing. He has a real knack for it, and he picks up the secondary AWP to lock down certain areas of the map. Great example of this is B-site on Ancient, where you'll see him pick it up quite often. As the year has gone on, Jabbi and Zyphon have picked up more and more responsibility. Their ability to deliver whilst shouldering that extra responsibility has been key to the Flames' development. For Jabbi, this means more multi-kills, making full use of the support and the space he's been afforded to really go out and win rounds. Zyphon has instead been instrumental in finding quick openers, anchoring areas, and then making good decisions in late round scenarios. T and CT sides. Both of these players are clutch, with Jabbi especially standing out as the Flames' most cold-blooded player. He even outperforms Nikados in terms of clutches against the top 50 this year. Zyphon doesn't have those sort of clutch numbers in terms of volume, but what he does have is a lot of great rounds where maybe in 2v3s or 2v1 advantages, he's incredibly sound and incredibly polished in his decision-making for such a young player. Zyphon is often an anchor, be that holding certain areas solo or alongside another one of his teammates. On Nuke, Ancient and Overpass, Zyphon can be primarily found on Ramp, B-site and, well, B-site respectively. A lot of B-sites for anchors, aren't there? Zyphon has two main approaches to his anchoring rounds. The most common is a traditional utility dump, denying information and space from the T side. On Ancient, this comes in the form of a deep smoke and molly, the smoke landing at the door, the molly on the ramp, forcing the Ts to come through a grey screen and then into a Molotov if they did want to rush that B-bomb site. On Nuke, he puts out the traditional smoke-nade combo, sort of default utility that we actually saw Malbs MD throw out in the last episode of Prospects. It's a very standard util set. It gives a lot of space for the CTs to work with, a lot of control, and it also just does a really good job of preventing those fast pistol rushes. The second way is less of a setup and more of a straight up fight. Now, it doesn't always have to happen by itself. It can be just after the util that he's initially used has faded. The areas Zyphon holds are quite often prone to being attacked by contact plays. The two biggest examples of this being B short and Overpass, and of course that B site of Ancient. Instead of fiddling about with his utility, Zyphon will just sit on the angle and await a peek, relying on his sublime crosshair placement to do the work for him. Add to this the reduced effectiveness of Peek's advantage on LAN, and Zyphon is able to pick up really abnormally high number of these opening kills during the major cycle. Just going to throw in this example of a really textbook ramp hold, just for fun, as Zyphon takes one kill and drops down to B immediately. He retreats, preserves his life, preserves the man advantage, and instead makes his final stand defending something that really matters, the bomb site. Jabbi plays a lot of high impact, yet primarily static roles on the CT side. He often, as we mentioned before, anchors the A side of Ancient almost entirely alone. This is where he picks up that secondary AWP, and he keeps really single-handedly control of this bomb site. On Nuke, he finds himself the A bomb site, playing a combination of behind silo and on top of hut. In this case, he's not really anchoring solo, is he? He's playing off of his teammates, the Heaven, the main players, and then rotating appropriately. The young Dane picks up a lot of multi-kills and round wins from his positions on A, but is also able to get the timing right to go down to that B site and help lock down that area too. Finally, on overpass, Jabbi actually plays B alongside Zyphon for the most part. This duo obviously completely locked down. Rarely do they go untraded, and rarely do they not go 1-for-1. So where Zyphon's CT side is defined by his utility usage and his anchoring, Jabbi it's more about playmaking. Jabbi is often allowed to be quite aggressive on overpass, often taking space and info by pushing the monster tunnel or short, and on some extreme occasions actually connector. The Ancient A-site anchor is one of the most impactful players to ever sit still in the back of a bomb site. Jabbi showcases weapon versatility here, and picks up the AWP, and he turns essentially into the unmovable object. And whilst he does have that big green in hand, he doesn't very often get too fixated on picking up the multi-kill. He does just show off some pretty clean textbook anchor play, where he will take a pick, throw down a smoke, retreat, and play for a retake. On Copenhagen Flames' T-side default, Jabbi and Zyphon are typically the least active members of the side. They're usually holding down areas for CT aggression and establish a base really for that team to work off and find that opening pick. On overpass, Jabbi and Zyphon hold monster and connector respectively. Typically quite passive in this, but it's a part of the game where you're trying to not give anything away rather than go and find something to actually take from the CT side. Huxi uses his youngsters in much the same way on Ancient. Jabbi holds A, and Zyphon is typically responsible for mid. Nuke sees Jabbi work solo around the squeaky area, whilst Zyphon is actually playing towards ramp in his very traditional passive holding style. On Nuke and Ancient, Jabbi does have the freedom to take some more assertive control of his, well, responsible areas. As we can see on this round against FaZe, Jabbi is actually clearing much deeper, looking for a fight, and then going on to win it. He could have waited for the deeper push, but in order to remain unpredictable, Jabbi decides to go forward and clear the CT lurker before it becomes an issue. Copenhagen Flames also throw in a fair few set plays to open up rounds, taking control of contested areas and bomb sites with a barrage of nades and people. Ancient mid control is a great example of this, where the combo of Zyphon and Jabbi plow through CT utility, backed up by their own set of flashbangs, of course, to take that early fight. These two have the aim required to basically challenge anyone in a heads-up fight, and Huxi makes full use of it. Nuke is a tale of fast APOPs, where Jabbi and Zyphon are the leaders of the two prongs, taking it in turns to make plays out of hut and squeaky. This is the side of Zyphon that isn't immediately apparent. He's more than willing to be thrown directly into the fire and challenge the CTs head-on. Early in overpass rounds when the team needs short control, the set play will usually set up Jabbi +1. It can be Huxi, can be Zyphon, it depends, and there will almost always be a player in connector, making sure that connector player from the CT side doesn't get a free double. Another more explosive play that teams like to run on overpass is a monster pop. Now, Copenhagen Flames do throw these in every now and then, but thanks to the ability of these two players to hit heads and clear space effectively as a tandem, they often actually do it quite slow and take it as more of a contact play. This brings me into the more general topic of contact plays, which are a huge part of Copenhagen Flames' T-side. You cannot talk about any player on this side without talking about contact. These two, of course, feature heavily in these plays thanks to their excellent aim, excellent crosshair placement, general mechanics. Combine this with meticulous preparation and they are rarely looking in the wrong place. On Ancient, Zyphon will sometimes go for these plays almost solo. He is technically there to meet up with the Jag players, but he has a lot of responsibility and a lot of things to clear before they actually reach and can reasonably provide assistance. Another great example of these sorts of contact plays is actually here on short. Once the control's been taken, Jabbi and Zyphon step slowly into that area and look for a fight. Jabbi is presented with one, and of course wins it. Something that features across all maps is Zyphon's incredibly methodical and careful playstyle that you really don't expect from many young players. It's actually thanks to this that man advantages can be swiftly either erased or completely flipped by the Danish side. In this round against Astralis, Roy and Huxi go down rather early. Zyphon is able to pick up one in connector thanks to his really methodical clear. The team then commit to B, but Zyphon isn't in a rush. He knows there are likely CTs coming through connector based off the info Roy picked up when he died. He does hold off this rotation with 2 more kills, just to show off how clean his aim can really be, and how polished he is as a player already. For these 2 players, the sky really is the limit. Zyphon has already developed from the best player on Astralis' academy to, well, a reliable tier 1 rifler, capable of playing his spots and hitting his shots against the very toughest of opposition. Whilst he plays very much in the system that Hooksy has set forward, I have no doubt that he can assume bigger and bigger responsibilities as time goes on. The skill is there, and we've seen behind the scenes that the drive is there too. It's only a matter of time before he is truly, fully unleashed. Jabbi, on the other hand, looks like a superstar in the making. He ended as the 16th best player at the major according to HLTV rating, and the eye test indicates to me that that wasn't too far from the truth. This was his finest performance to date, and one that should inspire a lot of confidence in the youngster. If this is the level he can reach at his first ever major, the mind fairly boggles at what he could achieve if given the time to develop properly. As a duo, I hope they stick together. They've had some great moments playing together already, and theirs is a really interesting story to follow. What the future holds for this team still remains to be seen. They have been priced up for a future buyout, and so it's possible that Jabbi and Zyphon will not be playing under the Copenhagen Flames logo for much longer. What is for sure is that these 2 young starlets will be around our scene for, well, many years. Thank you for watching the video. A big shout out goes to my elite contenders, my £10 a month patrons, XL and Lagia. Thank you again for your support, guys. Really appreciate it. If you're interested in being a part of my Patreon, you get access to my Q&A. It comes out every month. Links in the description. Check it out. Comment your thoughts on Jabbi and Zyphon. Which one do you think has the most potential? Which one do you think we'll see in the HLTV top 20 first? I'm curious to find out. Like if you enjoyed it, sub if you want to see more. And that's all for this one. Goodbye.